So to get started, we need to get back to our roots at the very beginning of our lives. And so I want you to take about 60 seconds, and with somebody new near you or around you, I want you to share with them what you thought you were going to be when you grew up, is essentially the question. And it's the first question on the handout when you receive that. But as a kid, what did you think that you were going to be? So let's take 60 seconds and kind of talk with people near you about that. All right, hopefully you had some time to share with people near you about what you wanted to do when you got older. And I want you to keep this in mind as we move forward. Keep in mind what your goal or your dream was when you were a kid, because that's going to help us when we go through this journey today. The earliest dreams, they matter. They're not predicting our future. I'm sure some of us wanted to be things. Oh, my mic, there we go. Our ballerinas or a pop star, and maybe that's not something that you're doing right now. But those early dreams, they're what lit that spark or that passion inside of us when we were kids, and we need to keep those things in mind as we're pursuing our careers or changing our paths. So I know they read a little bit about me, but I want you to hear it from me and my perspective. There's going to be a little bit more detail added in that they didn't read. So I was born and raised here in Findlay, Ohio. I attended Sunshine Childcare here in Findlay, and then I ended up being a K-12 graduate from Liberty Benton. And my parents were middle school sweethearts. They apparently fell in love when they were in junior high, and they got engaged in high school, had me when they were got married when they were 19 and had me when they were 20. And so they didn't go to college, but they worked very hard for the life that they gave my siblings and I. And because they didn't go to college and because they felt how hard it was to prove themselves in the business world, it was never a question of if I was going to college. It was a question of where would I be going and what would I be going for. And that was just something that was instilled in me very early on. But I'm the firstborn, I'm the first granddaughter, and so I'm very type A and have a bold personality anyways. I have that intrinsic motivation, right? And so I have 5 big goals in life, and they were to go get a degree, to get my dream job, get married, get a house. Can anybody guess the 5th one? Have kids. Those were my 5 big goals, okay? And so what happened was I ended up going to Bowling Green State University. I got a degree in middle childhood education. About 2 or 3 weeks after I graduated college, I got married. And then while I was on my honeymoon, got a call to come in for an interview for a teaching position once I returned. So a week after I got back, went in for an interview at Wilson Vance here in Findlay. Got accepted, took that job in 4th grade and taught there for 3 years. And I just felt like everything was going incredibly well. I just felt extremely successful. I had accomplished 3 of my 5 big goals in a month-and-a-half time frame. So I just was like, okay, I've got this. But because I accomplished those 3 goals, I still had 2 more that I wanted to accomplish. And so my husband and I decided it was time to have kids. After a couple of unfortunate miscarriages, we did have our son Gavin, who's now 11. And when we brought him home to a duplex that we were renting. And after a little while, we realized this aesthetic and this vibe isn't really what we wanted to raise our family in. Like, we need something better. And so we worked with a family member and we built a house. Very early, very young. Yep, somehow we thought we were financially stable enough for that. So right away, I had achieved all 5 of my goals. I got the degree, I got the job, got married, had a kid, had the house, everything that I had ever wanted, I had. How many of you have had similar milestones or goals such as those 5 big goals that I had? How many of you have kind of lived your life toward those things? Yeah, it's very common, and I don't blame my parents or my teachers for instilling anything like that. I think just as you're growing up, you're observing the adult world, and those are the big milestones that people celebrate and consider success. And so that's kind of what it was for me. Those were the big things that I wanted to achieve. So after I have to move slides, guys. Hold on. Is it not moving? Oh, there we go. Okay, so sorry. So after 3 years at Wilson Vance, I got a phone call from Liberty Benton, and if you remember, that's where I was a K-12 graduate. And they told me they had 3 open 4th grade positions due to some retirement and some shifting, and asked if I wanted to come in for an interview, so I did, and I got offered one of the positions, and I took it. And at this moment in my life, I was truly on cloud 9. The school that had instilled all of this passion for creativity and learning and helping others, they wanted me to come back and teach for them. And so it just felt like a full circle moment for me, and I felt that I had just achieved everything that I had spent my whole entire life working up toward. So I taught for Liberty Benton, and obviously I still had all of those big goals, the husband, the house, the kids. And I had achieved all of them in such a short amount of time that then my questions were, okay, well, now what? Now what do you do if you've already achieved everything that you worked your life toward? So for me, it was about perfecting and getting better and taking those things to the next step. So I poured myself into teaching. I tried making my classroom the most creative and at-home place for the students and I. I communicated with the parents, built some friendships and relationships with them. And I got very creative and innovative with all of my lessons, and every year I tried to top myself with more creative ideas. But slowly, there was this little nagging feeling in the back of my head, and I just couldn't put my finger on it, but there were a lot of self-doubt questions starting to arise, such as, why are you doing that? You could do better. You could do more. What else could we be doing? Did you spend enough time with your family today? Why are you still in your classroom after hours? Are you tracking enough data on that student or that one or that one or that one or that one? And if you're in part of teaching, you kind of understand that. And then more of the, like, you have a lot of debt at home, all of these things just keep piling up. And it was kind of scary to have all of that self-doubt hitting me. And so when that self-doubt happens, maybe you can relate, it takes a toll on your mental health, but then that mental health starts to affect you physically. And so I started having days where I would just need to take sick time, and I would have to have a substitute go in and teach, and I would just need to stay home and kind of recharge and try to take care of my health. But the problem with that is then I start getting the questions such as, why are you so lazy? Why can she handle her family and her job and her stress and she's not getting a substitute? Are the principals thinking that I'm a terrible teacher because I'm not spending enough time in the classroom? Are the parents upset that their kids have a sub? Do the students like the substitute more than you? All of that self-doubt just kind of piles up, and it was to the point where I was just feeling like suffocated or that I just wanted to scream my lungs out or something. Well, I started to doubt my career, which was scary in itself, because if you remember that first question we started the session with, what did you think you were going to be? Mine was always teacher. Since the first day of preschool when I was 2 years old, I went home and told my mom I wanted to be a teacher, and that was it. I never wanted to be a ballerina, didn't want to be a pop star, didn't want to be a chef, a doctor, nothing. Literally all of my journals, my entire life, say that I'm going to be a teacher. So to have that self-doubt is terrifying. And when all of that stress was weighing on me, when I was trying to figure out, why am I second-guessing my career? Am I enough? Why am I not enough? That's when my husband at the time told me that he didn't love me anymore. Yeah, right? It's okay, he missed out. Look at me now. So, and I'm not here to bash him or bash our marriage. We didn't even really fight. He had just changed his mind about some non-negotiables in our marriage, and I'm going to be 100% honest that he's never come out and said it, but I'm pretty positive that my perfectionism played a part in all of this. My need to always achieve the next best thing. I am almost positive that played a role. So I also take blame. But unfortunately, when Gavin was only 2.5 years old, my husband at the time and we decided to divorce. And at this moment, because that was one of my big 5 goals, I felt like I had failed, and I never planned for failing. So what do? And I stopped hanging out with my family. I still talk to them, I still do the holidays and things, but it wasn't as close-knit or intimate like it normally was. I started dreading going to work even more, and not because of the students. I absolutely loved the students, and if you were one of my students, because I saw a handful of you here today, still love you. But I dreaded the power that the state and the administration had over me, because I would go home and felt like I had no control or no power over what was happening in my personal life, and then I would go to school and I was being told how to teach, what to teach, trying to fit me into a box that, I don't know if you know me personally, but I don't fit inside boxes, okay? And so I just felt like I was losing control in both big components of my life, and I just wanted out. So I started testing the limit a little bit, like standing on tables to teach and things like that. Possibly got written up a few times, it's fine. But in the middle of the year, I made the conscious decision for my mental health and just the way that my life was going that I needed to leave teaching. I had a couple of business opportunities I was debating between, so I thought I'm going to take the month and I'm just going to think through what avenue am I going to take. I'm still young, businesses are willing to hire me, obviously. I had some opportunities, I just needed to sort out where I was going to go. So I left teaching, and at this point, I think it was about a week and a half after I left teaching, I lost my grandpa. And my session's only 45 minutes, so I can't get into what this man meant to me. But just know that he was my person, and he was who I would go to about anything. And I had gone to him about wanting to leave teaching and being scared, and he had looked me in the eyes and said, "You can do anything that you put your mind to. You always have." And so I remember sitting in his room. He was at Birch Haven, and he was incoherent at this time. They had put him on hospice the day before, and I was sitting in this room with my sister and my aunts and my grandma, and we were trying to distract her and just kind of keep her company the best we could, making sure she was eating because she hadn't eaten in a while, and so we were trying to make sure she was eating. I was filling out some COBRA paperwork to make sure Gavin and I would have insurance and be taken care of during my leave. And I finished the COBRA paperwork, and I saw Grandma was done eating, so I picked up her trash and I threw it away. And I sat on the edge of my grandpa's bed, and I put my hand on his chest, and I said, "Grandpa, I think I know what I'm going to do. Gavin and I will be fine. We got Grandma to eat. Everybody's here. We're keeping her company. Everything's going to be great." And that was the moment that I felt my hand go up and down. And he took his last breath. I felt like my whole world was crumbling and that I had no control over any of it. My personal life was failing, my business life was failing, I was losing my favorite person in the world. And I just felt like I had hit rock bottom at this point. Oh God, he's so cute. So's Gavin, but my husband's kind of a babe. Oh my gosh, see, look, come back. Phew, now we can get past the crying. Okay, so all of that to say that even in my darkest moments, I knew that God was there. And I knew that he was in control, and there was a reason that he was closing doors. And as I kept putting my faith in him, I started to see more doors open. I met my husband, Brian, and we got married. I took a position at a job here in town at a local business. We bought a house, and everything seemed to be going wonderfully. We started going to church, prioritizing time with both of our families. We made sure Gavin had the best of both worlds, no matter if he was with us or with his dad. We made sure at sporting events, his dad and his dad's wife, like we sit together, we cheered Gavin on. It's just something that we've always done. And then with my new career in sales, I started feeling that passion of communication and helping others start to light again. That flame was starting to light inside of me again. I felt that passion coming alive. I was building connections with my customers, But at one point, I realized that I was missing that passion of creativity. And so I went to my higher up and asked if I could make a lateral move into the marketing department. And they let me after some negotiating. So I made that lateral move into the marketing team. And this was great. I loved the team. We all brought something new to the table. I had that creativity component, that communications component, working with others. Everything was great. And I slowly worked my way up that ladder until I was the brand communications manager. And I was reporting directly to the VP of sales and marketing. But after a while, and I'll be honest, I know Viva said it earlier, but post-COVID, there was a shift in the company, and their priorities were being realigned, finances were being realigned, tasks they were putting on people's plates were being redistributed, and so the tasks that were put on my plate and the amount of things that I needed to get done and the types of things that I needed to get done, I realized that they weren't what I had signed up for. They weren't my passion. I wasn't enjoying it. There was this priority shift, and I started feeling that same familiar feeling again, that feeling of burnout. At least that's what people call it. They call it burnout. I felt trapped. Brian and I had spent a few years trying to conceive. We had 10 failed IUIs and a chemical pregnancy. I felt like I was drowning in every part of my work. I was driving back and forth to Dublin to Spring Creek every other week and having multiple appointments every time I would have to go. I'd have scans, trigger shots, all of the above. And so I just felt like everything was kind of piling up. And then kind of keeping that to myself, but then I also was at home trying to get Gavin to all of his sporting events and his school functions, trying to be the best mom I can be and help him with all of his homework and get dinner on the table and all of our routines. Still working full time, doing tasks that I didn't really feel passionate about or enjoy doing. And I was just going through the motions and not enjoying any of it. Finances were obviously taking a hit. Family time was taking a hit. I wasn't really making any friends or building connections in the business world at this point like I had wanted to. And I just started becoming physically ill before work every day. I just hated it. I just dreaded going so bad. And one day I was sitting at the dining room table. School had closed the night before, I think due to some ice or snow or something. And I was sitting there, and I had worked with the VP, and we needed a project done, so they would let me work from home that day. And I was finishing up this project, and I noticed that Gavin was looking out the window. And he was sighing a little bit and just kind of looking, and I asked him, what's going on, bud? He was like, do you think that there's enough snow to build a snowman? And I looked outside, and I was like, maybe like a small one. Not a very big one, but yeah, you probably could build a small snowman. And he took another sigh, and he was like, I bet it would be fun to build a snowman. And at that moment, it just clicked. And I emailed the project to my boss and said, I need the rest of the day off work. And I shut my laptop, and I went outside, and we built a snowman. And what clicked was, I realized I wasn't feeling burnt out. I wasn't feeling burnout from the job. I wasn't feeling burnout from all the personal things we were going through. What I do think it was God nudging me toward different doors. He was warning me, hey, these doors are about to close. These are the ones that are going to be open. And he was nudging me to realign my priorities and what I wanted in my life and what I wanted to focus my time on. So I came inside from building a snowman that night, and I looked at Brian and said, I need help. Like, I'm just not enjoying my business life anymore. Our personal life's taken a hit because I'm not enjoying it anymore, and I'm coming home just completely defeated. What do we do? And he asked me, well, how much passion is the job that you have right now? Like, how much is it lighting you up? And so on your handout, there's a flame check from 1 to 10. And right now you can do it, you can write it down, or you can just mentally think it if you don't want people to see your paper. But right now, I want you to think about the job tasks and the job you are currently doing. On a scale of 1 to 10, where would you put that job? 10 being like you're in the Lego movie and your alarm goes off and you're like, everything is awesome. Yeah. Or a 3 or a 4 maybe is like, you hit snooze once or twice and going to work's okay, but hey, I have a paycheck, and hey, I have these great benefits, so, I'll make do. Or, I have 5 more years till retirement. I'll coast through, it's fine. So think to yourself, on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you be at right now with your job, with your career? So then we get to the refining fire, and this is where it's really at. And I'm telling you that this is where I felt like I was prioritizing the things that fueled me, that fueled the inside. So on your handout, there are a couple of questions to help you decide what fuels you or what's dimming the flame inside of you. And yours might not look like mine, but feel free to work on that while I'm talking, or again, you're welcome to do those at home. But here were the priorities that when I sat down with my husband, the things as my life continued, these are the 4 things that I really wanted to focus on. And the first one was my faith. I had never lost my belief in God, but my priority in being a good disciple of Him, or my priority in going to church and doing Bible studies and things like that had kind of gone away, to the wayside. And so I wanted to prioritize that. My sister and I, we were both baptized as infants, but last December, our church does believer baptisms, and so we chose to get baptized again in December. And because I had seen God working in her life and turning her into the woman that she is, even in my darkest times, she stood as kind of this light and this encouragement. And so I had asked her to baptize me. And so last December, my little sister baptized me. And that is a picture of us before we looked like drowned rats the rest of the day. The second one I wanted to prioritize was family. I wanted this quality time with Brian and Gavin. And I don't know about you guys and if any of you have kids, but a lot of your quality time is eating fast food in your car on the way to a baseball game or a football game, or you're eating concession stand food, whatever, like chocolate peanut M&Ms you find laying around, like that's your dinner, right? And so I wanted to prioritize quality time where it wasn't Gavin playing the sport and us sitting in the stands. As much as I love that, it's one of my favorite things in the world, I wanted that quality time and creating the moments, the 3 of us together. And so we had created an activity jar, and if you want to know more about it, please ask me afterwards, but essentially we pull a slip of paper out, whatever the activity is on the slip, that's what we do. So we started prioritizing things like that, and some of the activities that we have done so far have been epoxy projects. We did checkers tournament. Gavin had to teach us how to play chess. We sketched pictures of the dog and turned it over to AI to turn into a graphic, and whoever's came closest to the dog won. Just different activities like that to prioritize, hey, when we're not at sporting functions, we don't need to be in 3 separate rooms of the house. Let's spend some time together. The third thing I wanted to prioritize was my passion. When we were going through the fertility journey, I had started APM marketing as a side hustle, and this was just to help 1 or 2 clients out with their social media so that we could afford the fertility treatments. Well, when I sat down with Brian that night and we were talking about my priorities and what I felt like was important in my life, I told him, honestly, I enjoy doing that more than my 9 to 5 that I'm putting all this time and energy and effort into. What if that was something that I could do eventually full time? And he's like, great, just quit. I was like, okay, this is my husband, and I hope if you ever meet him, he's whatever Alicia wants, let's just do it. But so we talked together and we got realistic about it, and we were like, okay, we need to talk to somebody and come up with maybe like a 5-year plan of how do we exit the 9 to 5 and enter this side hustle as a full-time job. And so that was something I wanted to prioritize, helping others, being creative, but kind of doing it more on my own terms. And then the 4th thing was connections. I didn't want to just go to networking functions to go and then peace out. I wanted to go, make friendships, build connections. That way, if I saw these people in the community, I felt comfortable to say hi. It wasn't like the grocery store thing where you see them and you're like, oh gosh, please don't say anything to me. I wanted to actually feel comfortable enough to go up and have conversations with them. So that was something else that I felt like I really wanted to prioritize, was getting out of the house and making those true friendships and connections outside of just our family and our baseball stadium friends. That being said, God has a plan for all of us. He's going to close doors that he doesn't see fit for our path anymore, but he's always going to open new ones. And we have to be open to walking through those doors and taking a chance and just trusting he knows what he's doing. Because he put us here to do good works. He didn't put us here to be miserable and self-doubting and hating our day-to-day lives. So then we have some reflection questions on the handout. What lit your spark as a kid? I put that picture of me holding money up there because every time my uncle would come around, he'd always give me whatever was in his pocket. So I'm sorry, kid, we're not making millions, but a little bit more than those dollars and coins that are in your hand. What energizes you now? For me, it's family time. Forget I'm wearing a mic. For me, it's family time. I love hanging out with Gavin and Brian, and it doesn't have to be across the country type of vacation. Sometimes it's just time spent in Ohio. Sometimes it's just time spent in Findlay doing something. But quality time is what energizes me. Something you've always wanted to try. This is something to keep in mind. I always had it on my bucket list to do a hot air balloon ride, even though I'm absolutely terrified of heights. Like, terrified. Notice I'm on the ground, I'm not on the stage. Terrified of heights. And so when we were on our honeymoon in Sedona, Arizona, we found a business that gave hot air balloon rides through and above the mountains. And so we paid to do that, and it was just this surreal feeling of getting out of my comfort zone and then also to experience it with my husband. And it's just one of a kind type of experience that I could have. And then the last question for you to reflect on is, what skills do you want to use even if the setting changes? I put this series of photos up there of me on the phone. My sister saw this presentation. She goes, Alicia, why are there so many pictures of you talking on the phone? It's just up there for humor for you guys, but also to show you, no matter the type or the severity of the skill, it's still a skill that you hold, and it might lead to some opportunities or new passions of yours. And so when you're reflecting on this, whether it's here or at home, I want you to keep in mind that even the smallest skill is something that you can put on this paper. So now we need to take all of these reflections while remembering the things that dim our flame, because those are the things that you're not going to want to prioritize and you're going to want to spend the least amount of time doing. And we need to mold our flame framework. So what do you love? What are you good at? What do you value now? And where are you being pulled? I took a bold move last September, I think a couple weeks from now, and quit my 9-to-5. I started an LLC so I could take control of what my days looked like, where my time was being spent. And I'm not in this to make millions. If God wants to open that door, it'd be great. But I'm not in it to make millions, and if you remember the slide of my priorities, it wasn't one of the 4 things listed. So what I could do was walk away from some of those benefits that I was getting from a 9-to-5 and kind of realign finances with my husband and make sure everything was still going to be okay, that we'll be taken care of insurance-wise and all of that. But I could take a step back a little bit. My other piece of advice is, before you make any sort of bold move in your career or your career path, seek out some sort of financial advisor, wealth manager, CPA, somebody that can speak to your finances and help you create a plan so that you feel comfortable and confident in taking that leap. My CPA, when my husband and I decided I was going to prioritize my passion project as more of my full-time job, we started working with a CPA, business mentor, I guess you can call him, and I mapped out a 5-year plan with him. Here's what I need to do over the course of 5 years while I'm still working my 9-to-5. Here are the number of clients that I need or the amount of revenue that I need to be making. And we map out this 9-to-5. After 5 months, I called this poor man up and I said, hey, John, and for you young people, this is a telephone, okay? Hey, John, remember that 5-year plan we planned out? Yeah. Well, I just quit my 9 to 5. We probably should meet and reevaluate that again. Okay, thanks, bye. To this day, John still compliments me on how I took 5 years and somehow accomplished it in 5 months. But that's the thing I really want you guys to understand, is that when you put a plan in place, there we go. When you put a plan in place, you're going to see that light ignite inside of you again. You're going to see what you are envisioning your life to look like and what you want. And when you're sitting at your 9 to 5 that maybe you're miserable about, or you're sitting at home wishing that you had some sort of hobby or something, you're going to wish that you were doing this other thing that lights your spark. You're not going to want to wait. You're going to want to focus on that. It's like right before you take a vacation and you have all these beautiful things planned out, and then you go to work and you're sitting there, you are not thinking about those spreadsheets. You're thinking about the pina colada and the beach that you're about to be on, right? That's what it is. When you start finding your passions and start mapping out how are you going to use these passions in your life, you're going to want to be there sooner than later. You're going to want to be looking at what's igniting that flame versus what's dimming that flame, because that's when you're going to come alive, and that's when you're going to feel alive, and you're going to turn into that Lego man and wake up in the morning thinking everything is awesome. It doesn't have to be starting a business either. And I know my whole breakout session is about aligning your career with your passion, but I really think you should apply this to all facets of your life. If it's something like a degree that you wish that you always had gotten, that could be your bold move. If it's about fostering children, that could be your bold move. If it's just about starting a hobby and you want to be more successful in that hobby, that could be a bold move if that's something you want to prioritize. So the next part of the handout is called fanning the flame. And this part of the journey is exceptionally the one that I feel like is the most difficult, because you're going to want to write down answers that are within your comfort zone. And you need to break out of the comfort zone and be 100% and truly authentic to yourself. If I weren't afraid of failing, I would. One small step I could take this week. One habit I can build to keep my flame ablaze. And one person I can share this with, who's going to be your accountability partner through all of it. You have to break out of your comfort zone or this isn't going to work. You have to be okay with writing the truth down and not feel like you're conforming to things that you thought your life should have been like or what it needs to be like. Have the vision, focus on the vision, write the truth down so that you see it. And here's some encouragement for you. This is a screenshot. Such a lovely face. This is a screenshot that I texted my mom and my sister right when I had signed a contract with a client that helped make it possible to leave my 9 to 5. I signed a contract with them. I was walking to my car thinking, oh my God, please don't cry. They probably have cameras. Please don't cry. Please don't cry. Please don't cry. And I knew I wasn't going to make it to my car. So I snapped a selfie and I sent it to my mom and my sister because we have no emotional intelligence. We cry when we're sad, happy, mad, overwhelmed, whatever. So I knew that they would make fun of me. So I sent a picture and I said, not me walking away from blah, 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 this client with a signed contract. And obviously my sister's like, yay, so proud of you. My mom says, yay, like they're excited. And not more than an hour later, literally like an hour, I texted them, I just quit my 9 to 5. And their responses were over the moon, excited, oh my gosh, yay. Of course they cheered. You can make the change too, you guys. You have a giant support system here waiting to cheer you on. Everyone in the room is here to cheer you on, unless you came with your boss. And then at this point, we probably should have talked about both of you signing up for this together. Okay? But you don't need permission to evolve. You don't need permission to make change. You don't need anyone's approval. God has given every single person power, love, and self-discipline. And we all have a purpose in life, and our purpose is around the passions that He has instilled inside of us. The last part of the presentation is your homework. If you don't like homework, you probably shouldn't have signed up for a former teacher's presentation. But I want you to say no to one thing that drains you. I want you to say yes to one thing that lights you up. And I want you to take one bold step in the next 30 days. And no, the bold step is not, Alicia told me to quit my job. No, I'm not saying quit your job. Some of you don't need to quit your job. Some of you love your job. Maybe you just need a lateral move into a new department. Maybe you want to try something new. Or maybe you want to branch out and you want to volunteer for a nonprofit. There's so many avenues and things that your bold step or your bold move could look like. But in the 30 days, I'm not expecting the full change of your life, you guys. I'm just saying make a step toward it. If that means filling out the application, or that means having the tough conversation with your boss. Whatever it is, just take that bold step in the next 30 days and utilize your accountability partner to help you and nurture you and just kind of encourage you and motivate you along the way. Everyone's passions are different. Your path is going to look very different than my path. Your path is going to look very different than your coworker's path or your sibling's path, and that's okay. As long as we're doing our flame checks and we're reflecting on what truly ignites that flame inside of us, it'll be okay. But like I said before, out of the comfort zone, you don't need anyone's approval. Staying true to yourself, that's how you get there. I know that my hardships don't appear to be as hard or as difficult as what some of you are probably going through or have been through. But I know that to me, at those points in my life, those hardships almost cost me my life. That depression and that anxiety and the just putting on a happy face and walking into chamber meetings or nonprofit volunteering or board meetings at work, it weighs down on you and takes control over you. It's hard. Now, I don't know what my future holds. Right now, I'm loving my life. I'm loving my flexibility. I'm loving my job and what I do and how I can prioritize those 4 big priorities. Only God knows what He has in plan for me. I don't know when these doors will close and other ones will be open, but I trust that other ones will always be open eventually. My information's here. For those of you who are wondering, the business that I started is called APM Marketing. It stands for Advise, Promote, and Manage. Those are the 3 tiers that I help my clients with their social media management and some marketing things. Social media is the biggest foundation of it all, but I do dabble in some of the other marketing efforts as well. So if you or any business owners are looking for somebody to assist, please give me a call. But more importantly, if you are looking for somebody to have coffee with or cocktails with, I will gladly join you. We can work through the reflective guide and things with each other. We can talk. If you want to bounce some off-the-wall idea of your passion and what you want to turn it into with me, I'm not judging. I'm not. From somebody who wanted to be a teacher when they were 2 to leaving in the middle of a school year and having their whole family think that they've gone cuckoo, I'm not judging you at all. Take the bold step. Find your passion. Ignite that flame. Realign your priorities of what's important. I'm pretty positive that when we all have passed and we're standing at these pearly gates and we're looking around, we're not going to regret that we didn't type that spreadsheet enough or that I didn't spend enough hours in the office. So realign your priorities and your passions. Find what truly ignites your fire. I appreciate everyone's time. I'm actually very over the moon that more than one person signed up to hear me today. But if you have any questions or any feedback, I don't know if there's time now or even afterwards, please find me. I'll be here all day. But I really appreciate your time and for you guys attending this. So thank you.